And we are live, guys. What a day. How are you guys doing? James?
Exhausted, up all night, like everybody else. Except
Dog?
for Mando.
I was fine. I slept like a baby. I woke up at 7 and everything had just absolutely collapsed. I did some trades this morning, which put me in a good stead, and yeah, I'm doing good.
Marty? How
yeah, been pretty much up all night, just counseling in the group, in the space, you know, all the traders just got wrecked. So just helping people out, learning from the mistakes. I had calls from Australia. What's going on? Australian market really got beaten up hard. My family's in Australia. But, you know, we saw it coming. We'll talk about it. I mean, we've been calling this for months. So no one saw the Japan thing. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't, at least. So we have a packed agenda. We will, of course, talk about Bitcoin, about the Japan thing. We'll talk about rates, unrest, US election odds, how that is impacting the market, what happened with jump trading, why did they do like this? Are they loading up, or are they exiting? Are they done? We'll talk about if that has any impact on Firedancer. We'll talk about Ethereum, Solana, tech stocks, and everything else. And if you guys don't mind, I'll do a quick TA update on Bitcoin, and then we'll go into the more discussion piece. So what has happened here really is that we never got the range breakout. We never got the breakout through the resistance at 71,400. Price did make a run for it, but it rejected it before even getting there. And instead, the overwhelmingly clear pattern is this downward sloping channel. And this, in technical analysis, this is not a flag because it's too extended in time compared to the move up in duration of time. And also the lower boundary, the lower lows are sloping more than the lower highs, so which is kind of sign of weakness. So we're having this downward sloping channel, and we got a huge reaction. Sorry, we got a huge reaction just an hour or so ago here at the lower range boundary. So from a TA perspective, this is what we're looking at. We're having this channel, which is still contained as of right now when we're recording this. So that's kind of the technical update. But what has happened? What's going on? What's your guys' thoughts here in the market? Because this isn't only Bitcoin. It's like the whole world, the whole macro market.
Yeah, we did this show without you last week, CTO, and we were all pretty bullish, actually. I mean, this time last week, let's put in perspective, Trump had just come out and basically said he was going to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. You had Senator Loomis just introduce her bill. You had all-time highs for things like Solana volumes, DeFi volumes. It was looking okay. We actually, as we went live, I think Bitcoin had just headed south from 70K, and Solana just headed south from 193. But it was looking like, oh, you know, this could be a more positive week. During that week, a few things I think happened. Firstly, we started to see Trump start to lose ground on the polls. So that used to got people a little bit worried. And then the big thing in macro was to do with the unwind of the yen carry trade, which has been a trade which has been going on for many, many decades. But the idea is that you borrow assets in yen, normally at 0% interest, because for a long time it was 0% interest. They did increase it to 0.25%. And then you'd buy risky assets. So you'd buy things like tech stocks. You might buy US government bonds. You might even buy Bitcoin. I don't know many people who were doing that, but you could potentially buy Bitcoin, just risk assets. And you would kind of hope that it was, you know, risk-free debt. Like you're not paying any interest essentially. So your real risk there is either stocks going down or assets going down, which they haven't really been doing. And then the second thing is that the yen dollar move would be in your favor. And that has been in your favor for a long, long time. What you saw over the last 3-4 days after the BOJ decided to hike interest rates and the Fed decided not to cut was that yen reversed all of its 2024 losses basically in the space of about a week. So that if you borrowed in yen and you'd bought US treasuries you were earning 5%, let's say a year, or you bought tech stocks and they were up, 30% a year. This has then moved 15% against you in the space of a week. And what that meant is that a huge unwind of risk assets across the board. This is any risk asset. People have been doing this trade. There has been some of it in crypto, but it's not been that crazy. The idea of margin loans from Japanese banks to crypto institutions wasn't huge, but it's really big in tech stocks, really big in US government bonds, anything with anything with yield above 0%. And you were kind of gaining on the cross currency. So you saw an unwind of that towards the end of last week. And prominently you saw the VIX as well, which is the volatility index hits 30 on Friday. And everything just didn't feel that great. And then over the weekend, it just felt as though crypto was the one thing that everyone who had done that trade could hammer the quickest. So if you've been borrowing in yen and buying tech stocks and you knew the NASDAQ was about to open down like 6%, the first thing you could do is a short crypto, hammer crypto. So I think crypto just became the global whipping boy of all macro products, because it's the only thing that can really trade on the weekend, and saw this horrific move lower, which is kind of reversed as soon as the NASDAQ's gone live.
Yeah, and there's a very clear chart, if you could pop up there, CTO, on exactly what that move looked like. Because if you look to the piece on the right here, that is the 15% move that went against you. And many people that are doing this carry trade, some were conservative, but there were also some on leverage. And over the weekend, what can you do? Crypto gets hammered first. So it's the early indicators, the first to go down and probably the first to recover as well. And we've already seen a massive recovery. Bitcoin is up 15% off the bottom just in hours. So that's kind of the picture of exactly what went down. And it's maddening, because I always say risk happens fast, but I didn't expect it to happen quite this fast. And we've been chatting about the carry trade since early last week, but it just all happened so fast on Friday. That's the real message here for everybody.
What are your thoughts, Martin?
You guys said it all. I mean, the only thing I'm going to say is there was a large block of longs at 50,000. We've all seen it on the heat map for the last 200 days. We knew that the exchanges were looking for any kind of black swan or any bad news or sentiment to run down there. Same as Ethereum 2200, and they did it, and they took this chance. Once they get going down, just like they did in May 2021. Remember, they did the same thing. They took the opportunity and literally to the dollar came down, tapped 50,000, tapped 2200, and now we're running back up. So for me, spot traders, you're all good. Buy the dip, but leverage traders, just learn again. So many leverage traders got liquidated on cross collateral from this, and we're being a little bit greedy. You just got to always be aware that we're not going up until the longs are removed in crypto. And I think that's what we saw, and it's always painful, but it's a good lesson once again. Just be wary of it.
Yeah, when it seems obvious that it's going up and everyone's entering their leverage longs or increasing the leverage, that's the spot to be wary about, definitely. So that's good advice.
Yeah, there was $75 million of longs at 50,000, which at leverage. So you can imagine they were up at huge profit at 70,000. They didn't take profit and they lost it all.
I'm thinking about one thing. Do you guys think that this Japanese yen carry trade is unwinded now? Is this undone, or is it
takes a long time?
It
takes a long time. Yeah.
This is a multi-decade trade. And what it's interesting to see what actually caused this. So some people think that the BOJ, as soon as the Fed decided, hey, we're not going to cut interest rates, the BOJ maybe came in and defended the yen like they've never defended it before. We normally find out about these things after the fact. They're basically forcing the Fed to cut interest rates. They've said, because remember, we've spoken about this for a while, like the yen has been really hurt by this move. Japan historically imports pretty much every single good, other than the ones that particularly raw materials. So this move has really hurt them from an inflationary standpoint. So as soon as the Fed decided, hey, we're not going to cut rates, the BOJ could have come in and just absolutely decorated yen dollar. We might find that out. That they've been saying they've been doing intervention for a while. So it could be that the BOJ has forced the Fed's hand, and they have a ton of dollar assets they could have done this with. which kicked off this trade. Now, suddenly, we're seeing in the last 24 hours, like I think I saw today, people calling for 75 bip emergency rate cuts. Like people are absolutely freaking out that the Fed needs to cut rates now because, there's a lot of assets in this swap and they can really hammer the yen if they can really hammer the dollar versus the yen if they really want to. So I think until the Fed cuts rates, this could continue. I think that's a medium-term unwind. This is the BOJ basically telling the Fed, you need to cut rates now. And we've kind of seen that start to be priced in US rates. But yeah, I think this, in terms of the pain, I think that they're going to keep on pushing it.
Yeah, and there's two people actually, but one has been calling for rate cuts for quite some time. But if you could pop up that slide as well, CTO. My former professor was on CNBC this morning asking for a 75 basis point rate cut. And I think Elon Musk has been calling for it for a long time. And he said, the Fed is too late on the way up and too late on the way down. And this needs to happen. So the question is, will they break? Will they, do what they want? Or will the Fed go down? Now, there's another aspect to this too. I have it here somewhere. Are you not entertained? He always wanted this, and there's the probability of at least a 50 basis point cut, which you've known is 100% for a long time. But I do have this. This is kind of like the political aspect I haven't been able to finish yet from AJ on Twitter, but it's all about the economy and that Democrats can't afford the market meltdown this close to the election. That is just so accurate right there, and this would basically hand the election to Trump. So the Fed isn't supposed to be political, but they are political 93% of the time based on history. The question is, what are they going to do? They're between a rock and a hard place, and it's fascinating to watch.
Emergency rate cut would be wild. Like the last emergency rate cut was in COVID. Now, to put it in perspective, what all caused this, jobs, the US jobs figure, which people predicted would be 175K, came in around 115K. Jobs missed by 60K. They only missed by 60K. And within 3 days, people are calling for a 75 bip emergency rate cut. I really don't think the Fed will do an emergency rate cut. It would be so political if they did. People said that they didn't cut it already because it was too political to do that cut. I think we're probably going to be waiting here until September for that rate cut. But that's why I think this pain could continue. I don't think they're going to step in. An August rate cut, I mean, it would be unprecedented for that.
So
another thing people haven't spoken about is that if you look at the rest of the world, guys, the escalations in the Middle East are being publicized way more than the US. I mean, Americans are unaware of what's going on, but there was literally extreme tension over the weekend in the rest of the world. People really on the edge of their seats that we could be facing. They were saying nukes. There was nuke talks, front page of the newspaper. And I think that caused a lot of fear outside the US that we were immune to in the US. And I agree with you. I think Japan is forcing a political move here. They're basically saying we have more influence over your market than you realize. And, you've held us between a rock and a hard place. Well, we're just going to poke the bear. And you can see the power Japan has over the global markets, guys. It used to be a powerhouse. We forget that.
Yeah, and that's such a good point, Marty, as well. Regarding the saber rattling risk, we don't know if it's drama or it's real, but there were huge cargo planes from Russia straight to Tehran, deploying many planes worth of stuff, very big. We don't know what that could be. There was also talk of a preemptive strike because Iran said they would strike Israel again.
Right.
And then
before we go into that agenda topic, let's just wrap up the rate situation. So the market participants here in the CME group, they bet 90% bet on a 50 point cut from 525 to 550 down to 475 to 500 in September. So that's way smaller than many others talk about right now in Twitter. But this has changed a bit during the day. And then they think, majority thinks another 0.5 in November.
I think the base case is 4 rate cuts now by the end of the year.
Yeah.
To put this in perspective, it's not like the US economy has just fallen off a cliff. Like that was that was not the best jobs figure, but last quarter the US grew by 2.8%. Like this, the move in yields just now will mean that banks are probably better capitalized than they have been before. Remember, there was all those unrealized losses that people were scared about 18 months ago. Like the move in the 10-year and all long-dated debt probably helps all of that. So I don't see this devolving into some sort of credit crisis. Maybe you get a shallowish recession if you get one. But they're going to force the hand just because the BOJ is forcing them to. They can't. Japan can't have the dollar this strong versus the yen.
Yeah, exactly. So it seems very likely this time that the rate cuts will actually happen. There seems no other choice. I agree 100%. I just wanted to conclude that. And then agree 100%. And they probably waited too long, as everyone said here.
Yeah.
Then
there's one tiny point as well. So it's not about the Fed. Sometimes people say the Fed doesn't want to increase stock markets, but what they're concerned about is credit. Once markets get nervous and credit dries up, that's when the Fed gets alarmed. That's what they have to put a lid on right now. And that is the biggest concern that I know the Fed are talking to. And I know the big money center banks are on the phone with the Fed. You know, Larry Fink, one day he called Jerome Powell 4 times in a day about a year ago when things are getting really hot. And, you know, Goldman and BlackRock and all these guys are calling the Fed right now and the Treasury saying, hey, do something. This is getting really bad, because they see what's happening in the credit markets. And if that dries up, the economy goes into the toilet straight away.
Yeah. And I've understood that sometimes the Fed holds out until something actually breaks. But
Yes.
now it broke. Now
Yeah,
stuff
something
broke.
broke. There's no more excuse. Something did break. Exactly.
Then we go into the next big risk, which you guys touched upon, the political unrest. And yeah, I feel like worried, and it feels like it's happening on streets in UK. It feels like it could be the same situation in a lot of European countries. And then we have the escalation with Iran and Israel, and you know, US sending materials and everything. It's kind of concerning. Of course, I mean, I don't know anything about the political. I'm not a political expert. I'm trying to understand how this will impact the markets. Do you guys think that the market is reacting to this at this point? Is that part of the dump that we're seeing, or is it not priced in yet? Is an issue not priced in?
I mean, my personal opinion, it's all about oil. The Middle East wars are all affect the oil prices, and people don't realize oil is literally, you know, it runs the world. Inflation will be extremely high if oil prices go radically in the wrong direction. So this war could definitely jack inflation up, which once again, without rate cuts, you know, it's just a stacking. It's just a shit stack.
Yeah, and I think the other problem is all of this escalation is because Israel has been doing some high-profile assassinations of Hezbollah and Hamas leaders on the ground in Iran, and if it's all like kind of game theory. If Iran doesn't retaliate, they look weak. And of course, the terrible thing that happened in Israel a while back, they're not going to forget that. But the escalation is driven by the desire to restore the ability to deter war in the area. They don't want a Hamas attack to happen again. So both sides have to look strong. And I think I read somewhere yesterday, if you want to find out what's going on in the world, don't read US newspapers, read Al Jazeera, read Indian newspapers. They tell you how this is really escalating with real-time data. And then when you read that stuff, you get very afraid. But I do think it's heavy saber rattling. And again, I'm also not a Middle East expert, totally zero knowledge. But I do think smarter minds will prevail. They'll throw the odd missile here, throw the odd missile there, and just say, hey, don't mess with us. Let's keep the peace. Maybe. I could be wrong. Amanda, what do you think about that?
I think wars are generally not that bad for markets. And that's obviously being completely financial, how I'm looking at it. But if it was around that, I think people got a little bit scared because the last time this happened like a month ago, right? Like Iran sent a fleet of drones to attack Israel, and crypto absolutely tanked. So people were scared that over the weekend we might see a similar attack, and then that might happen again to crypto. Again, this is just the idea that crypto is the only high-risk global market which is open 24/7. So people just use it on the weekends to just smash around based on whatever headline they see. I've seen this increasingly over the last year. It's become more of a macro product, and particularly on the weekends, if there's any sort of uncertainty around, people will just keep on hitting around. So I don't think global unrest is really. It's difficult to judge for crypto. I do think that if it's the only market open, people will trade it based on that, and I think that's basically what we saw over the weekend. And I imagine, I mean, in terms of short term, it sounds like there will be some form of attack over the next 24, 48 hours, barring any like diplomatic intervention.
Yeah, getting some reports on the ground that people are getting on with their lives. And yeah, let's from a humanitarian standpoint, let's hope it doesn't escalate, and it doesn't seem like the market is really pricing it in at this point. The next macro-like factor is the US election odds narrowing, because we had this incredibly bullish for crypto and Bitcoin speech by Donald Trump at, when was it now? 2 weeks ago, approximately, where he said all those very strong statements. And then at that point, he was in a clear lead in the betting of who to win the election. Then this has narrowed a bit since then. If we zoom in, this is on Polymarket. Of course, there's other sources of this information. We discussed it a lot, but it has kind of narrowed a bit. It actually changed during the day. This was 53 and I think 45 an hour ago or something, 2 hours ago when I looked at it earlier today. So now it has changed a little bit, but it is like looking at the trend, it is like a narrowing trend there. Which means then that those of course very bullish statements carry less weight if the probability of him winning is getting closer to 50-50. So what do you guys read into this? Who wants to start?
Well, first of all, there's been a huge propaganda play by all the mainstream media. And there was a beautiful thing retweeted by somebody, and it has the exact same verbiage that we heard during COVID, repeated by 50 different channels about how the right is weird. And then you can just look at the left and you know which one is weird. It's pretty clear. But the propaganda is unbelievable. And I was just thinking last night while I was not sleeping, imagine there is World War III. Who is actually in control of the White House? Who is holding the nuclear football and the codes? And when you think about that and you listen to these people talk, it's deeply, deeply alarming. That's what people need to think about. People were like, Middle East was afraid of Trump because he was unpredictable, but they're not afraid of Biden. They never were. And that's, to keep peace, you need to, enforce some type of fear on different regions. That sounds very crass what I'm saying again, but I think that's just what I was thinking about last night.
No, I do think I agree with what your sentiment is that there's a window here where if you are an enemy of the US, this is perhaps not a bad time to test the US. Like, I think that's another reason why people are more worried about the Iranian response right now. Even, you could talk about China and Taiwan as well, but there is potentially an unclear line of command, let's say, or that the vice president will be tested and you just don't really know the response. What I think the main reason I brought this one up is just that there's been a high correlation between Trump's odds of getting in and tech stocks. And it's difficult to tell if that's correlation or causation in any sort of way, but that is a crazy chart. That is an absolutely insane chart to look at what's been going on in the NASDAQ versus Trump's odds. I don't, again, you could say, they're completely uncorrelated, but it's something that caught my eye last week. And I was like, wow. I do think that Trump in particular would be positive for crypto. I think Kamala's softened her approach, seemingly. There's been a lot of talk over the last week. She's hired like an ex-Binance advisor, and she's seeming to get together more industry figures in crypto. For stocks, it's more unclear, but I just think people are now a lot more uncertain about what's about to happen. yesterday, Nate Silver, who is the very well known predictor of all these, he actually had Kamala ahead for the first time, and he is the main advisor now to Polymarket. Today, if tech stocks continue to go lower, as James said earlier, I think people will say that Trump can use all this. The Nasdaq going down 6%. Trump's going to tweet about that for sure, being like, "Look," he might even tweet out the chart I just showed. It is kind of wild to see.
Yeah, it is. It is. Let's move further in the agenda. Jump Trading was another big news. A big trading firm unloading seemingly quite large amounts of tokens. Who has studied this the most? Who want to start?
Well, Marty and I were going back and forth over the weekend.
I mean, jump trading, I've known jump trading for many, many years. They used to be, jump trading are a fixer. They're a hitman for exchanges. That's an exchange doesn't sell on their own exchange. They're not allowed to because of surveillance. So they'll use a market maker. And jump trading has always been the go-to. They moved out of the US to get off the radar of the CFTC. They used to do Binance's bidding. I mean, I literally used to go, Binance just sent 20 million to jump trading and the chart would respond. So jump trading are notorious for being, the hitmen. They're the hitman of the industry. Now, when you see these corrections like this, when exchanges are going, okay, we want to liquidate everyone, let's cause a flush, they use jump trading. So you just saw a flood of transactions to jump trading. And I think people jumped to conclusions that was jump trading selling off their own assets. We're not clear right now. I've been unable to find out any definitive answer as to jump trading's particular history or its future. Right now, its business model, what it's doing, but it's very clear that they did the bidding. They did the selling for Coinbase, Bybit, Binance, OKX, all the big boys were just sending anything they wanted to sell to jump trading. So there you have it. Now, we all know that jump trading was investigated by the CFTC. We don't know what the conclusion of that was. I don't want to speculate. It might even be positive for them. We don't know. But it's clear that they were involved in the selling, the actual execution of the selling to get the price down to 50,000, 2,200 Ethereum. And they did unstake a lot of their own Ethereum. I'm not going to say they didn't. We all saw those transactions. So that was what I think jumped off the speculation that they were themselves in trouble. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, so the SEC CFTC investigation is tied to Cavan, which is stemming from 2021. So that's ancient history. And they let go of him a long time ago. So he's out of the picture. But sometimes it takes the court system 3 years to catch up with cases. So there's a few theories right now. First of all, they are some of the best in the business at playing macro and trading and crypto. So they know what they're doing. Maybe, I got a whole bunch of theories and let me know if any hold water. First of all, they had a big bag of Ethereum and they thought, we see the carry trade unwinding. Let's just get rid of this. Let's dump it into a liquid market at the weekend. And that's what they did. And that took the price down. Like Ethereum was down 20% in a few hours at one stage, I think yesterday. Then there's other theories that they need liquidity to fund FireDancer. They need liquidity to fund an exchange, that they are maybe unstaking ETH to shed it, to stake it somewhere else. For example, Solana. Maybe they see that FireDancer is going to work and it could run an exchange and they're getting very bullish on something else. I don't know. Maybe they're out of cash. Maybe they think there's a faster horse. There's so many different things, but don't underestimate these guys. And I also checked in on FireDancer. I mean, GitHub is still running. I spoke to a couple of people that are still producing blocks on the new FireDancer version written in C++. So everything from that perspective is okay, but also beware of the FUD storm that's up to 100 miles an hour on Twitter, crypto Twitter right now. Everything is against Solana from a FUD perspective.
If looking a little on the chart, so that Ethereum has disappointed, hasn't missed anyone. It completely fell out of its parabola on the dollar chart, and on the BTC chart, it fell out of its range, which was incredibly disappointing, of course, in the lead up to an ETF approval, which it got. So once again, buying the rumor, selling the news is often a something that plays out in the markets, and exactly what we saw here. So someone has been selling, and I don't know. I couldn't really figure out this jump trading either. If it's them, if it's other people, if it's they're executing the trades for other people, don't know. But someone has been selling. Otherwise, it wouldn't look like
they're
that.
a market maker. They're a behemoth. They're multi asset as well. I think the idea is that they may just be leaving crypto, which would be strange given that they were like they're so intricately involved in Solana's fired answer. But if you have been a market maker of altcoins this year, you've been destroyed. Your altcoin portfolios are down. Bring up the top 100. Look at year to date now. There is horrific out there. Like stuff's down 40 to 50% across altcoins. Some of them are,
and almost everything. If taking like 10 random coins from the beginning of the year, 9.5 would be down massively.
It's only really Solana, Bitcoin, Ton, and a few meme coins, and the rest of it's just horrific. So I think the idea that they are probably market making these coins are probably like, well, why are we even involved in this? I don't think it's not like FTX where they've got a bunch of debt or people they have to pay off. They probably just decided that they saw better returns in other bits of the market. They probably, if they're still involved in Solana fired answer, then they probably see upside there. But maybe it's not a great business to be market making altcoins, and that should be a surprise to absolutely no one this year.
The boss entered the room and said, guys, what are you doing?
I also think that this is a repricing moment. I think in order to reprice, specifically at the dominance perspective between Ethereum and Solana, you need to cause a liquidation event like this to completely flush out the market, get everyone to cash. And then when they come back into the market, like we can see today, their portfolios are different. This is when people make those strategic decisions to come back into different assets. And I feel like if you look at SOL ETH, it really didn't budge. If anything, it's pressing for all-time high right now again. I think this might be jump trading's move to rebalance against Ethereum, to support James's question and point. Sorry, guys, I haven't slept.
No, it's
so
fine.
I think that we're seeing a repricing event. I think once this is all said and done, you'll see the dominances reflect more of an equilibrium between Solana and Ethereum, which supports basically performance and adoption. So Ethereum has dropped to 15.5 dominance right now from 18 after this dip, and Solana is at 3.3, which has jumped up. Binance is at 3.45. So Solana and Binance are kind of equalizing. Ethereum has dropped. Bitcoin dominance, as we saw, went up to 57.5, I believe, at the high. But when it's all said and done, I think we will see a different dominances in crypto. And that could be what it is about.
Two charts are in stark contrast. Here is the SOL to BTC chart. The level that I've been watching is the 0.002. That is still holding stable.
Exactly.
Nothing changed. It's not even close to that. While Ethereum to BTC chart on the same time frame looks like this, which
That's
is
what
like
I'm talking about. Exactly.
couldn't possibly look any worse than this. Every possible level has been broken. And again, SOL BTC looks like this.
Guys, Ethereum market cap went from 410 billion in a week to 277 billion. That's 132 billion difference. That's the combined market cap of SOL and BNB. It lost on that dump. Just think about that for a second.
Yeah.
How is SOL BTC looking, CTO? That's the one I'm most. We spoke about that a little bit last week when you weren't here. That maybe Bitcoin dominance, and Bitcoin dominance has gone up in the last week, but maybe Bitcoin's the strongest horse until the election.
So this is SOL to BTC. So it's holding stable. It has not dumped. I mean, the support to break here would be this 0.002, which it goes all the way back here. And it's not even close. So it's holding very stable, actually.
It was when things dipped this morning. I spoke to another trader who I trade with, and we were like, the first we want to buy is Solana. It just feels like the strongest horse, and it was down at 193 to 110. I mean, it just seemed like the right thing to buy, and you just got to think about what people are going to buy first. They're going to simplify their holdings, and it just feels as though that.
And look at the wick. You can see it here. It dipped down, and boom, it just straight back up on the SOL to BTC chart.
CTO, can you put up the Solana chart for us, like on a daily or weekly? Yeah, I think it was really interesting the way it ran up last Sunday to 192, right? Broke out of its pattern. It got a higher high, correct? and then almost immediately was sold down. It's almost as if somebody found out the news last Sunday or Monday morning and was like, we got to get down fast, because that was a very unnatural move down.
Those dailies are crazy. 7 days lower.
Right.
Yeah,
that was a very interesting movement right there.
On the USD chart, it's back over support right now, but there was a week below here. So yeah, I mean, it's looking good so far. I felt that the SOL to BTC chart has been the easiest one to analyze. It seems like a lot of big traders are probably on this chart. That's why we get so well-defined horizontal levels. But also the SOL to USD chart, it's actually back over support right now. So yeah, and if you look at, you guys mentioned Bitcoin dominance. The thing with Bitcoin dominance is that Ethereum is such a big part of it. So
exactly,
we see partly what Ethereum is doing kind of inversely here. And of course, it's performed very badly. So Bitcoin dominance is still moving up as of today. It's still an uptrend.
We're at 54,400. We've come back up from 54,000, almost $4,500 recovery already today.
Yep.
My honest opinion is that this recovery won't be V-shaped though. Like I just feel as though this has liquidated a lot of people. You said you've spoken to a bunch of different people on your shows. Apparently, it was 277,000 traders that were liquidated.
$1 billion. Wow,
Mando. $1 billion. 77,000 traders. So think about that in terms of traders. Like a lot of people wake up this morning and be like, you know what? I was told to own stuff, and I could just be long crypto, be long ETH. That's a good asset in crypto. It's erased all of 2024 gains. I think my honest opinion is that we'll see a consolidation here. This reminds you of the FTX or the other big liquidation moments where we've had, where it's been like a 30-40% move, and it's really just wiped out so many different people. I think people will feel like they don't really want to jump back in. That obviously they probably feel as though they're going to move away. I think majors outperform all other altcoins here again. I'd be very, very wary if you have lost money jumping in and being like, I want to make it all back and on some 5x. I think, honestly, we could be here in a week's time and altcoins are down even further, and Bitcoin and Solana are probably unchanged or maybe just slightly higher.
CTO, can you pull up the weekly, before we leave this, the weekly Bitcoin chart? Let's go back to 2021 and have a look what happened in May. You can see very similar movement. Almost the same thing, exact thing happened in May. See the first head in the previous bull run, how it came down there on that correction. May, yeah, there. I think that's the same move we just saw. That capitulation event. Obviously, it was much more extreme then with less liquidity in the market. But I think we're seeing the same movement. So now it does that sort of whack off and then rebound. I think we're going to see a similar move. But I agree with you, Mando. We're going to see a week or two of consolidation here before people get their confidence back.
It's funny. I remember that day. That was March 12th, 2020. I actually bought all my ETH in one day on that day, and most of it was under $100. So I've been watching it for years. And then bought the whole bag in a few minutes. But that time in history, Bitcoin price fell about 35 or 37%. I fell from about 8,000 to just under 5,000. And a year later, 12 months later, it was at nearly 60K. So we could be in that exact same situation right now because there's a lot of similarity. Although I do think the Epoch 3 is most similar to Epoch 5 because Epoch 4 was heavily manipulated, especially that double top, very fake.
Bitcoin looks like a buy here, but bring up the ETH chart, bring up any altcoin chart, bring up any meme coin chart, bring up anything, but basically apart from Bitcoin and Solana, it's that is going to take some time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that wick yesterday on Ethereum, I think, is going to break a lot of hearts.
And I mean, now we're talking about the coins that have after all performed rather well. If taking any other coin, basically, like you guys said, if we look at, I don't know, whatever coin, it's been really rough for almost all coins.
Yeah, I mean, look, Cardano nearly came down to December's level, December or November level. That's insane. Yeah. Wow, look at Matic. Wow.
Exactly.
Wow, look at XRP. I had no idea. Go back to XRP. Good Lord, XRP was got the worst I've seen. Look at that.
I mean, there's a few ones that have held up well, but a lot of them have gone really, really bad, actually.
Wow.
And, yeah. I mean, projects that were doing pretty well in the beginning of the year, situation radically changed for most of these. And like you said, Mando, I don't know, big trading firm, perhaps suddenly, the boss comes in and says, what are you guys doing? I mean, all these coins that you are in, they all look like garbage, and they've been looking like garbage for the longest time. We're out of this, guys. I mean, I have no idea if that's the case. Just speculating. Just looking at all these charts, they look so bad. From top.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a flippening from. It's 2024. We've got US regulatory in crypto. We're going to have Bitcoin in US law. I think at 2024, if a project has not delivered, if it's still promising and hasn't delivered, or it hasn't got adoption, like 100,000 users, I think they're gonna. This is the end for them, and I think that's what we kind of saw. Is if you haven't delivered by now, people are going to slide over into projects that are delivering, and we're going to have a big consolidation. I think that's the way it's meant to be.
I think that's really the challenge here, is to be able to take in new information, because most of these projects, they looked really good. It's not so long ago, actually. But then the situation changed radically and pretty fast. And they dropped a lot, including Bitcoin. So, but yeah, there's a definite reaction from this trend line today. But let's see.
Can I ask you a question, James? I think we're going to go into this.
Yeah.
What is a better buy here? Tech stocks or crypto?
I just got a couple of fills on a few trades. So yesterday I tweaked a perp on Solana. Last night it was about, I think it was about $110, $111. And today I look at relative value and what's been beaten down the most and what will rebound the most based on my projection of earnings. And I'm looking at Bitcoin miners right now, believe it or not. I'm not buying spot. Also, I didn't buy MicroStrategy today, but I think with the 10-for-1 stock split coming on 8/8, believe it or not, that's the original Robotaxi day. 3 days from now, there'll be a lot of liquidity coming into MicroStrategy, and that could be interesting as well.
Yeah, it's just an extension of that thought was what I was speaking to the other traders about. It's going to take a while for those 277 traders, 277K traders, to kind of get back in and get trading, all that sort of stuff. So I feel as though the rebound in tech stocks might be stronger, but then at the same time, tech stocks have outperformed crypto quite a lot. At least a few of them have over the last 2 years. Do you want to? Is it further to fall? Like if this yen trade continues?
Well, it's all about. I look at things clinically from a mathematical perspective, like expected values. You've got things like CleanSpark down now around $11. I shorted that at $20 not too long ago, a couple of weeks back. Those calls that I sold are now worth 20 cents, and I sold them for about $3.20. So then I take that money and I rotate it back into another option trade. It's just so I calculated as well. The 277,000 traders, they lost an average $3,600 each. But one of the things that I've been urging people to do as well, and I do this every summer, every year. I've got certain seasonal things I do. First of all, or the whole like from sell in May, I hoard cash, and I wait for an August or September market crash. Always. So I've got pretty big, about 13-14% cash position, depending on how you measure it, and a ton of margin to do stuff with. So I was just frustrated this morning. I couldn't get into Schwab to do some stuff. But anyway, I think there are people, when you look at that 3,600 average loss, that's not the money that moves the markets. A crazy amount of leverage taken away, but they're not the big players. Like Mr. 100 bought 1,340 Bitcoin the last 24 hours. And I know people say, oh, it's an Upbit cold storage wallet. No, because the behavior is of a DCA bag. I believe it's an Upbit wallet, but it represents a whale that's stacking. So You know, there's people with a lot of money that are sitting on a lot of cash that are waiting to deploy. So back to my point, and to answer your question, I look at expected values. You got an asset that was $20 a few weeks ago. Now it's 11. Are you going to hit the bottom? Doesn't matter. It's half off. So you get as much as you can now. If it goes to 9, you buy more. Same thing with any other asset. So that's the way I look at the markets.
And the way I looked at it, similar to you, James, we're very similar. I sat on I still have a lot of cash sitting around. I said to myself, if we hit 50,000, 120 Solana and 48 cents Sui, I was going to go in, and I executed on my spot buys.
Yep.
And so to me, I actually had a wonderful weekend. To me, I've been waiting for months for that. And people have got to get into that mindset. You know, you've got to set your levels where you're going to enter and be disciplined enough to stick to it. And don't jump on the FOMO wagon. Don't get baited out. And it's been very hard, obviously, because of all the bullish sentiment. But at the end of the day, we got what we wanted, and that's, people need to learn and take that into their next epoch, into next year, into the next cycle.
And the other thing that I like to do as well is make a plan and stick to it. Yep. So I said I'd re-enter the perp on Solana once it goes under the 200-day moving average, and that was it. And that plan had been in place like 4 to 6 weeks, and then it happened. And then, you know, it goes further. You don't nail the bottom, but then you can always double down as well. And it's all risky stuff. The point is liquidation levels. If you are playing with leverage, make sure they're way, way out of reach. Like my liquidation now on the perp is $80. So for Solana.
Yeah, I mean, either the minute you go red, exit. That's what I tell people. The minute you go red, exit immediately. Reassess. Watch the price a little more. You lose a little bit of money, that's fine. But when you get deep in the red, unless you add two times margin, 3 times margin, they're coming for you. They sold you the position with every intent to come and liquidate you.
Absolutely. Cut the losers early and hold on to the winners is usually a good approach. What do you guys think about these, say, the big tech stocks? So, for example, there were news that Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett unloaded a lot of Apple stocks, but we're still up a lot from, say, early 2023. It's still not quite double, but almost. I mean, most of the tech stocks are still up a lot, not to mention NVIDIA. Do you guys think that this is just the beginning of a correction, or is this it?
That was my question as well. Like, I feel as though, like, for example, I thought we were going higher. I was in JLP, which actually hasn't dropped that much, but I'm sitting there having kind of outperformed on that portfolio and thinking, is the strongest horse to buy Solana outright now, to buy Bitcoin outright, or to kind of get involved in these tech stocks? To me, these tech stocks, if the yen trade continues to unwind, that is a sort of trade you can really lose your hat on. So I'm wary of it. NVIDIA is probably the one I'm most wary of. Tesla, I kind of like. It looks to me like the one which hasn't really run up like these charts. Tesla looks
exactly. We noticed, we talked about that a couple of months ago, that if looking at these big tech stocks, they almost look the same, all of them except Tesla, which kind of hasn't really run up. In fact, it's been making lower highs and clinging to support here, while these stocks, they've gone up a lot. Even just Google, which I guess hasn't done that much, is like up 100%, and NVIDIA from the bottom down here in 2022, even today after this unwinding, is up 800%. So of course they have a massively increased earnings and doing fantastic. AI is coming and so on, while many of these other companies, not that much has changed honestly in 2 years.
NVIDIA is interesting because on Saturday, you guys know that they announced delays of their shipment of the Blackwell series, right, due to some design flaw they discovered. I thought that would be also a catalyst for some Monday bloodshed on NVIDIA, but it didn't really. It came down under 100, right, and then it rebounded. But,
today's candle is extremely. This is today's candle. This one here, it's an up candle by quite a lot.
Yep.
I think people have been just told you have to buy any dip in tech stocks. Like it's just like, oh my God, we're going to dip. We have to buy it. I'd be very wary of this being the first dip. This is the first like proper dip we've seen in these stocks. I don't know if this is the dip to buy, honestly. Particularly because I think if I was sitting here and going like, right, well, the Fed's going to emergency cut this week, or we've got the Fed meeting next week, and this yen trade's all over, we've probably got another month and a half of what's the Fed going to do. And I think that is not the great environment to see a V-shaped recovery even in tech stocks.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, personally, I usually don't do anything most of the time. Almost all the time, I don't do anything. And then once in a while, it happens. The day happens when you realize, oh my God, there's like an inverse head and shoulder in NVIDIA, and the trend is turning up, and the AI is coming, and probably rates are going down, whatever. It's like everything at the same time, you realize, oh my God, this is it. And then I take action. Most of the time, I have no idea what's going to happen. Right now, I have no idea. I don't know if this dip is it or if it's going to go lower. So personally, I'm not doing anything here at this point.
Yeah, there's the other wild card as well. It's very important to consider. There's over 6 trillion on the sidelines. Rates are going to be cut. When that happens, people aren't going to get the same return on their 6 trillion, and they need to find a home. And that'll be the rotation from money market accounts into risk assets.
That is the bull thesis right there. Is that there's so much money. It's just that this is going to be a test. I think people might freak out for a little bit longer. I don't think this. I know crypto had this freak out over the weekend, but the fact that Nasdaq's only down like 3-4% right now, I don't think the things that cause this freak out are changing, and I don't think they're going to change for the next few weeks. So even if you want to buy, I'd just be DCAing rather than like going all in on it, even on a day like today. I don't think it's going to be V-shaped.
Do you guys see some other opportunities? Today, everyone is, worried, fearful. It's like panic everywhere in the market. Do you guys see any other opportunities that we haven't discussed today? James, some interesting Solana projects that you're following or something else?
Yeah, I'm a big believer that I got into a couple of Solana alts, and I'm holding them all for a year. Some are kind of at break even. Some have almost gone to zero, but that's the risk you play with these new things. I'm waiting for the mothership to rise first, and then think of it like 3 rotations. Hopefully there'll be a Bitcoin spike, and then people rotate out of that. Then there'll be a Solana spike, people rotate out of that, and then maybe an altcoin spike after that. Who knows? But I tend to have very few positions, very heavy concentration, and I dabble with stuff on the side for fun. But if you add up my altcoins right now, it's like 1% of my entire bag. The rest is 4 different positions pretty much.
Yeah, I think you got the dream discounts on crypto last night and this morning. Those are great opportunities. Obviously, the networks that move stable coins, I'm loading up on those. Obviously, Solana and Sui. I like to stick with the native tokens. I don't really dabble too much in the ecosystem projects. I'm a little bit more conservative than that. But I'm the same as James. I trade only like 1% of my portfolio. I just spot bought all these dips on these layer ones that I like. That's pretty much it. And then I bought Tesla, obviously, under 200 was great.
Yeah, exactly. And I was so pissed off this morning because I couldn't get into Schwab. I saw Tesla 182. I bought a pretty good position at 207 on Friday. Now it's 202.2. So if you look at all that's happened over the weekend, Tesla's lost $4.50. So it's not bad considering. And other things are actually turned positive today for the day so far. Enphase, Trade Desk, Crowd is back up there too. So there's a lot of opportunity. These are times. This is the reason, again, as I stress, you always have to have dry powder. Never be all in. Always, because there'll always be an opportunity that'll present itself. This one happens to be a crazy good one. But that's the way I see it.
CTO Lawson, what are you trading right now?
I bought some Bitcoin close to the lower channel boundary here, which I also, there was a lot of volume there. There was a volume node. 51,800 was actually my target during the previous dip this time, here in early July, or that time. It didn't hit then, but now it hit. So sometimes, you know, patience wins, and that's what I did. But I'm by no means all in and so on. So, and also when I'm saying what I do, it's not a recommendation for everyone else. My situation probably isn't representative for most people. But yeah, that's what I did. Should this break, if we also take that scenario, what happens if this channel breaks? Hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, then the next volume node is really down here at 44 to 41,000. If it happens, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't predict it's going to happen. It hasn't happened yet. We're holding the channel. In fact, we got a strong reaction back up. I'm just saying if someone is watching this later in the week and things have gone south, that would be my guess that we kind of tap into this volume down here from this consolidation period in the end of last year and early this year. But I'm not saying I think it's going to happen. I'm just saying if that happens, that's how I would react.
And just for some perspective as well, despite the world ending and saber rattling and the dollar yen trade unwinding, Bitcoin is exactly where it was on the 8th of July. So that's less than a month ago. So
I'm very impressed by crypto's resilience, especially the majors. Yeah. I think it was a very impressive test.
If I play this through, I think if tech stocks do keep going lower, then I think Trump's odds go up. And I think people then start to suddenly get very bullish on things like Bitcoin again. So I actually weirdly think that Bitcoin is the best hedge in some ways. It's the best high risk hedge. I don't really see if tech stocks rebound, great. I think crypto goes higher. If tech stocks really fall out of bed, you know, if the Nasdaq falls 20% here, then I think crypto will probably outperform.
What about global liquidity? CTO Lawson, do you keep a chart of global liquidity?
I have looked at it. I'm not sure I understand it enough to use it short term.
I mean, China has been printing a lot of money. They just broke out. If you can pull it up, Dylan Sinclair has a really good trading view indicator. You can.
That's old, though, Marty. That's old. That hasn't been updated since 2023.
It's at 106.7 global liquidity right now. I believe it's looking like they're starting to turn around into easing. And then tomorrow, August 6th, we have Treasury buyback starting again. This time it's a $30 billion clip. And I think we all know crypto follows liquidity. So I think it's going to come just in time. I think they were flushing the market in preparation for liquidity. That's what I think.
Yeah.
The whole movement was over the weekend.
There's a bunch of measurements here, but I think, as you say, it has probably gone up. But I don't really. I want to understand and use it better, but I haven't quite figured it out. I feel
global liquidity is going to go up for sure. I think that again, that's the bullish. Basically, it's similar to what James said. There's so much money on the sidelines, and they're probably going to pump more money in now. The bullish thing, that if the Fed doesn't cut rates, what they could do is open up a dollar yen line, right? So that anyone who's dumping dollar assets in Japanese markets can do it directly to it's particularly government bonds, but they could open that up. That could be something that they potentially do before the meeting next month. That would be a bullish sign, for example. I think things would rip.
And there's a live view of global liquidity, and literally it just spiked today, believe it or not.
That's what I was just saying. Can you bring it up?
Yeah, can you share that chart, CTO?
It's important for people to see this and learn about it. This is a very, very important chart. If
here it is. Now I see it. Yeah,
it's the yellow line, everybody.
There you go.
So you're looking at just the last 3 days, how much it's actually gone up. It's incredible.
This is what I watch. This is my most important chart, because if you do Bitcoin like on a monthly versus global liquidity, it's literally correlates.
Yeah. So it's up a massive percentage. If I calculate percentage here of how much it's actually gone up, it's too difficult to measure on a finite basis, but year to date, it's going to be crazy. Anyway, I'll stop sharing right now. Chart's a mess, but it is going up. And this is what, there was a rumor last night that I think, Marty, you said that somebody's going to get on the phone with Janet Yellen to print $10 trillion.
$10 trillion and then retire. Thank you, Janet. Thank you.
That's Goldman calling, that's BlackRock calling, because without that liquidity, again, that's the big risk that the Fed has. If it dries up, if the credit dries up, everybody's toast. You know, businesses need cash to be able to keep the motors running. If that cash dries up, the economy dies instantly.
Yeah, I mean, most politicians in power want to win the next election, and one way to do it, as the Romans figured out, is to kind of, give out stuff. And in the current day, that typically means stimulating the economy by printing more money and let the next generation worry about that problem after they won the election. So let's see. That seems a good guess. I agree 100%. More liquidity, pumping the markets should be positive. So yeah, I agree 100%. Anything else we haven't covered? We've been on 1 hour. I have some stuff to do. I gave up my office this morning and actually got a hotel here to do this live stream.
I mean, I've never been more bullish actually on Bitcoin. I think the fact we didn't drop under 50, which everyone thought 48 would be the bottom, and we held on to 50, is extremely bullish. Guys, you've been there in 2018, 19, 17. On that kind of a flush, Bitcoin would have dropped to the 30s. So it is a new Bitcoin. And we maybe have to thank the ETF liquidity for that, to keep us this resilient. Maybe they actually, at the end of the day, that was what we saw, is Bitcoin is more resilient from the ETFs, if we like them or not. And only up from here. I think once these leverage longs are taken out of the market, liquidity will come in, off we go.
Yep, Bitcoin will follow that yellow line, pretty clear. So, and always have cash. And if you have cash, buy the dip. If you have leverage, make sure you're way, way out of liquidation levels. So that's the
absolutely. Don't lose your money in the chop, guys. I mean, if Bitcoin is going to go to 100,000, 300,000, we're talking about like 1,000%. Don't lose all your money to try to win the 5% here, 10% there. It doesn't matter. That's not really why we're here, I think, anyone. The big moves are in the trending time frames, and then now we're in a ranging consolidation period. And don't lose your money there. That's not where the money is made, unless you're very skilled at what you are doing. So I think for most people, don't do high leverage bets in the middle of the chop. That's very dangerous. All right. Should we call it the day? Continue to the charts and the market.
Yeah, no more price predictions, I think.
No, that was a terrible prediction. So
and predicting short term is extremely difficult. Predicting a week, a month, whatever is very hard. Predicting maybe
nobody thought Japan rug pulling the global economy. No one saw it coming.
I think hopefully higher. Just if you've lost money today, just get your mentality back. Simplify your book. I think have a longer term time horizon. Like CTO says, we're all going to hundreds of thousands. So
pray for peace in the Middle East.
Hope we helped.
Yeah. A final thought, though. Who here thinks, because when you look at those liquidation levels, the market makers are looking at where people have leverage. How much of this is market maker contrived to steal people's leverage positions?
100%.
Yeah.
I said 90, you said 100. There you go.
I want people to realize if they are in a leverage position, somebody is looking to steal it from you. When you have that mentality, you'll be able to be much safer when trading with leverage. They're looking to grab your bags. So be careful out there, everybody. Happy week.
Absolutely. Everyone's out to get you. Stay safe, everyone.
I'm going to go to bed.
Exactly.
I'm going straight to bed.
Great job, CTO. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Mando.
Thank you.
More next week. Thanks, Mando, for doing that. And CTO.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
Next week. Adios.
Bye.
All right. Are we off? Ended?
Spinning. I pressed end the stream button, but I don't think it has ended yet.